Good day, welcome to another Relove Guitars video, and today we have the second of Rich's straight from Harley Benton, straight from Thomann bass guitar. Well, it's not the second bass guitar, it's the second guitar, which happens to be a bass, and it's upside down. Okay, fingers on the floor. This is the progressive thingy, and now the interesting part of this is that neither Rich nor myself are bass players, so this is a kind of, okay, that's interesting. This is a kind of a new thing for him. He's kind of going to take it up. So what have we got here? We have got a nice B450 progressive series, made in China, maple neck, scarf neck joint there. Pretty nice looking neck actually. I have to say it immediately looks a bit better finished in the neck department than the 6-string from yesterday. With a couple of pickups, we have an active pickup mode switching on and off here on the front knob, and then we have, I guess we might have 2 volumes, 2 tones, and then we have 4 of these individual, I'm sorry you can't see that too well, 4 of these individual bridge units here. These things which are fitted in 2 places, and then we have actually got an earth strip between them, so we've got an earth wire that comes out. I presume one of these holes comes through into the cavity here, and it comes out, and because these are 4 separate things, they've done this thing of joining it with some electrical tape or some you know, metallic tape, which is a bit odd really. It's just untidy. Look at that. It sticks out. I mean, it does the job. It has to ground all the parts of the bridge, and it obviously creates itself a problem because they're discontinuous. They need something to join them up, and they've achieved it with a piece of tape which touches the original wire at this end and then just runs across. But they could have, you know, they could have just cut it short at that bit there. I don't want to get a blade to it, but that would have looked a little bit less ragged. Anyway, so what we have here is the HB bass. Now obviously I'm playing it completely upside down, or I'm thwunking it. Well, I have to say that doesn't feel too bad, but I'm not the best, most disqualified person in the world to judge. So I'm gonna, in this case, I'm gonna do the best I can to clean up a few of those little notes that were a bit muzzy in there, but we're obviously going to check the action on this. I wouldn't say it's overly high right now to begin with, so I can actually just cut through this plastic stuff. So it's an active and a combination active and passive thing. Battery goes in here, like that, and then shuts in like that. And then we have, I don't have a bass amp, so I'm going to use this little thing that somebody complained about the other day and said, surely I should get a decent amplifier for the shed. Well, yes and no. I mean, the limitation is, God, I can't put this one back to front, can I? I want to just feel how it hangs, really, although this is going to be amusing since I'm right-handed. Yeah, the problem is it doesn't really fit with playing loud to get some really cool tone out of something when I've got neighbours nearby. It isn't fair. So I don't think I'll be playing through a bigger amp out here. It may have been a bad day. Sometimes the tone out of this amp is no good when the batteries start to run down at the last little bit. Oh, this is weird. This is very odd. Left-handed guitar. Oh, and a creaky strap. I must look like one of those people in films who pretending to be guitar players but they aren't. Okay, so this is just about hearing the different sounds out of this, and also being a bass, I've got to be somewhat careful with the neck swinging around here. Sorry about this. Oh, creak. Phone going off. Creak-tastic. See if I can make it play anything. Okay, so I guess we've got switch as more of a blend thing than anything else. Okay, so switch number 2 has a détente center position, so that's a balance between the two pickups. We've actually got some inconsistent height on the strings here a little bit, but that's okay for now. I can't even reach these. Feeling the battery might be dead. Okay, well, it's got a center position too, I think. Is it? Yeah. Yeah, center. So these two have center. Wow, how weird playing a bass backwards. I'm not playing a bass at all. Can't get my hands around this. Look like one of those fake bass players. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to go and get another battery for this, just to make sure. I've got a rechargeable one. I just want to make sure that what's happening here is that the battery is a bit on the dead side. It should be. I would have thought that would be boosting the sound a fair bit more than it currently is. So we take a small pause, put this on here, and I'll go out and get that. Hold on. Well, it does work. The battery is working. I changed it out just to check anyway, but So it's hard to hear on this because there's not enough bass frequencies, unfortunately. So volume up, engaged with active. It's actually thickened the bass, but you can't really hear it on this amp, unfortunately. And then in passive mode, you have this sort of bass tone shaper thing. This is a balance between the two. So we've got volume, we've got a blend, and we've got a tone. The tone pretty much seems to work mainly on the passive. If you pull it up to the active, it thickens the sound up. A little bit, but not quite. It's in a slightly different way, so that's beyond my reckoning. Anyway, that's for better bass heads than me to figure out. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure everything worked, although, like I say, I'm not really in a position to describe what it actually does, other than what I've just observed there. Anyway, let's take this off. It's a creaky strap. So what are we going to do? Well, with this, what I want to do is make sure, stay over there, is make sure that this has a nice action all the way across, and that the strings are balanced. At the moment they're sitting at different heights and they're a little bit uneven, but a decentish action. And then we'll just check all the individual frets. Be interesting to see how low this goes, and is still, whether it's still playable without any further buzz. But also we'll check the amount of relief. What I'll do is I'm going to go off some specs that I'll dig up in a minute off camera, just so I can double check any measurements. But it's at the beginning, to start with, it doesn't look too bad in the way it's done, and it's got a graphite nut here that seems to be okay. Looks like it's been hand finished, which is probably a good sign. And all of these frets appear to be sitting pretty well. Yeah, it's quite a flat. A little bit of radius, relief, I should say, but not a huge amount, which is actually this. In many ways, this might be. Let's have a look at this. Do we have? Yeah, we've got a height adjuster. We've got a height adjuster, and we've got a backwards and forwards intonation adjuster as well. And these should be pretty well set at the moment, but we'll see. So let's get a thingy out and just have a look at the. That's the wrong one. And have a look at what gives. Okay, so I'm just going to drop this down a minute. A little bit stiff actually. Right, let me just go and check some very quick specs, just to get the sort of typical playing action. I'll do it on my phone so we don't get. I'll turn you off so you don't get bleeps. Hold on a sec. One thing, I just took off the strings to check the radius on this, and it's about 15-inch radius. But one thing, if you're new to basses, as I am, it can be quite a surprise that as soon as you take the strings off, there's so much force on them that it's only until you put the load back onto the strings that the neck actually curves and gives you any clearance. I know the action I've set on one of these strings already is quite low, but it's kind of weird because as soon as you take the load off, it suddenly feels like the neck's gone completely flat or bowed, arched, and you can't play it. Okay, so I went and got me a few little measurements, just a kind of a standard good bass setup, and see where it looks in relation to that. So on a 15-inch radius bass like this, we would be looking to have a first, well, where do they measure it? 17th fret they measured it. It's not my normal way, but I'm following the old proper convention. So let's just so actually what we'll do first, let's check the thingy relief. So they're reckoning we got 0.25 millimeters at the 8th fret when we 0.25. How do we get to it? There's a 0.25. Sorry if this is going to be a bit dazzly. So a quarter of a mil, which doesn't sound a lot on a bass guitar. Doesn't sound a lot on a 6-string guitar, but so a quarter of a millimeter on the 8th fret. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this I feels to me like it's already a bit less than that, so there's possibly a little too little relief in that, a little bit too flat, so we might adjust that as a start point. This is I seem to remember every time I do this I'm thinking, wait a minute, left-handed guitar, what on earth, which direction does it go in? Now I did that with the other one, and I did it exactly the same, so I shouldn't be panicking about that. So what we'll do is we'll take off the truss rod cover here, as with the other one. In some ways the bass, it's kind of less to go wrong in terms of setup, and my feeling is this is a bit better set up to begin with than the 6-string, which was quite a lot of work to get to a very nice playing action. But again, notwithstanding the comments I made on that video all about, you know, how for some people it plays out the box, but for others it doesn't. Okay, so we want to slack a little bit off here. We want to let the neck pull into a little bit more relief than it currently has. So I'm going to go in and go a tiny bit. It's going to not let me get the thing out. Towards the way. Can you get it in and make a turn without scrunching the strings? Not really. So you get one place where it goes in, which is there, and you get to basically move the string out of the way, which is about the only option I've got. Move it out of the way, do the adjustment, move it back. Some people say that you need to slack the strings off. Slack the strings off if you're going to make a an adjustment. Okay, so we've made a small relaxation of the truss rod, and I'm going to look and see if it has made any impact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, it has. There we go. We've got we've got that. It's a tiny bit more than 0.25, but maybe we can yeah, it's improved actually a little bit already. That might adjust more, so I'm going to keep my eye on that. One of the things that my little settings didn't tell me from anywhere was the ideal first fret action. A lot of places don't seem to supply that information. I pulled the numbers from a Fender bass specification, and yeah, it didn't tell me anything about the first fret, so I'm going to sort of do a check to see what those are. But let's say we'll stop the radius, neck radius, where it is just now. The other thing I'm going to do is to put my close-up glasses on, and we'll set the last fret, well, not last fret, the 17th fret. What did they say? 17th, wasn't it? 17th. Funny, yeah, okay. Where it joins the body, kind of. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, or where it thickens up. And I guess the reason they give that is because after that point they sort of expect it to flatten out a bit on the bolted section, or on the, I guess, the set neck, it would be on the glued section. So here we have what's looking like 2 point something, 2.4. It's actually quite, actually they're saying 2 on the 17th, 12, 13, 17. This is a little over 2, so we can take this down. I haven't loaded this one. Let's take this one down a little bit. To do that, I will need to unscrew a little bit on these here, and then a bit of a push, I think, because it doesn't seem to go anywhere unless you tell it to. Keep an eye out on the end of this. Okay. Then we've got a side-on screw. That's interesting. So what have we got? We've got side-on screw. I'm going to take one of these strings off in a minute. Just have a look. But let's see if I've got that first D string at the right height. Yeah. Bright light, but yeah, okay. And then this end they had it set at, what do they say? I'm looking at the wrong place anyway. They're looking at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And on this side they're looking at 2.4, which is a very, very small difference, which I was happy with. Now this is very hard to read on any day of the week. Probably need some different kind of light, but let's have that 1, 2. Now I've got it down at quite a low action. Let's have a look. I'm going to just bring my, should have got the other torch, but let's stick this to airplane mode and we'll get the light on it. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, like I was saying, the you can't see this very well, but I'm trying to. The fret's look in good condition on this. Better all round than the other one. Now I can't really take all of this off, so I'll have to try and see if I can use a different scale. It's very difficult to read, I have to say. Okay, we're currently, I would say we're about on the 2 mark on that low E. That's because I lowered it. But I might start with that. So let's be really cheeky and see if we can make it play. We'll go 2.4 to 1.8. So a little bit more lowering here. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And that is about on the mark. So let's say we are 2. We've actually gone 2 and 1.8. 2 and 1.8. Really, probably could be 1.6, but that's actually a bit low, and it would freak out bass players the world over. So let's go a bit in between. We'll go 1.9 for the next one. 1.9, so that's way over. I'm just looking at which bits are moving. I think I may have to just reassess this a second. We have that one inside there. Right, let's do something while I'm here. Let's just make sure I know what's going on here. It's a new instrument, I've never seen it before. Let's just move a couple of things out of the way. When in doubt, try it out. So we have a hex key on the side here, which when you turn it, the thing can move, which is fine, and then you can theoretically lock it in place by turning it okay. It comes right the way out. So we've got a little grub screw in here. We've got one right on the end here. What does that allow us? Does that allow us to pull the whole little unit out? So that's already at pretty much at the lowest part of its travel. I guess we tighten this back up by using that front one, and then the side one is the one that locks it into place. What I'm going to do, because I've seen these things grind to a halt in the past before, so I'm going to take a liberty here, and I'm going to do something I do with very small grub screws the world over. I just get this, because they're coming in at different angles. They have a real, in my experience, they run quite a risk of damaging and stripping out, in which case the thing becomes slightly unworkable. So I'm going to put a little tiny bit of grease on each one of these things so that they go in smoother, and then I'm going to take these fellas out, and I'll do it for all of these, so it's a bit long-winded and boring, but I just don't, and I'm going to do it over the guitar, but I just don't want, they're very dry to begin with, and I don't want anything to strip out, so a little bit of extra help is never a bad thing. And it's a little thing I often do with bridges at an early stage like this, and certainly with all the Chinese bridges that are headless bridges that I've used that feature lots of little hex key operated grub screws like this. I often like to do it on Strat bridges too. You know, if you get that first bite wrong when you're moving these things around, you can do it a fair bit of stripping damage. So having a bit of loose, what's this stuff called? Grease, oil, is in my book better than having stripped threads. So we do this bit by bit, since I know the numbers I'm aiming for. So as you can see, this is a little bit different anyway from how I would. This is really tricky because you've got to get this angle right to get this in, and if you go too far with it, what happens is you push it and it comes down out the other end, and that's the locking bit for the intonation travel. And so the intonation is kind of pushed physically around, and then you've got what have you got here? Two little holes. Is that a bridge? That bridge is made for string through fixing as well, not just the end fixing. So when we get that in, then we can pop this back in here and place that back in. And I'm going to put it, that's a bit too far out. Reverse, reverse, reverse. Waggle it around and then tighten it up. So this is interesting. That wants to move when I tighten it up. Come on. Right, so this is set pretty low. Let's just get it tuned back up. Have a quick look at what it registers on here. Nice and low. I mean, part of the thing here is that because Rich is a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Because Rich is a newcomer to bass, it's not a bad idea to be starting out with something quite low and playable for him from the start. As long as it is playable and it doesn't make a horrible noise, easier to get your hands around and play. So that's actually quite low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to untighten the retaining one. I'm going to raise these up now a little fraction, equal on both sides. And I was aiming for 1.8, if you remember. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Where it thickens up, come on, you know that. Okay, and then I'm going to look. That's about 1.5. Too close to the pickup right now, but we shall move it up a little bit more. Watch out. Okay. Okay, 1.8. So I will now tighten this one down. Well, I would if I could get in there with this little thing. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is just slack off this one. We might find that this plays well at this low action even without any fret leveling, which would be quite interesting. So with this one I'm going to undo a grub screw there, undo a grub screw here, pull the whole little unit out as before. Come on. Thank you. And then do the same basic. They're so tiny, these things, that if they do get messed up, it can just ruin the whole thing. So a couple of minutes just putting some extra protection, if you like, onto these, I always think is a good investment, so you don't have to worry about it later on down the line. I mean, yes, you can see it takes a little while to do, but rather it was done than not. You can feel the difference when you put a bit of grease on there. Obviously it's got to keep it from getting everywhere if you can help it. Thankfully there are only 4 of these with 4 screws on each. Like I say, the real secret is getting that, I'm doing them all the way in just to get the whole of the thread covered in the grease, but yeah, This is interesting. This push arrangement to intonate. 6-string Strat type guitar players are very used to things pulling, turning screws to pull things back against springs, and in this case it's just physical movement. You kind of see, you usually can see the mark where it sat before inside this little what do you call it? I guess it's a little tray runner that it sat on. Again, you have to get the string kind of out of the way before you can fit it down. And you've got to find the key to turn it, and then put the string back on and balance it up, and then start doing your measuring, but under a bit of tension. Okay, now we go up to here. Now that's very low. Too low. So we get this in here and do some adjusting. I don't think the intonation adjuster is really that accurate in these things. You have to sort of push it and hope that you get to the right place. And this one moved as I tightened up the intonation holding screw, which again is not really what you want. So I'm looking for a 2mm here on this one, and then a little bit more on the next one. So we're still low. Okay, we're just under. So this one is 1.8, this one is about the same, a little bit more to go up. Okay, that's good. No buzz. Rings out nicely. Good. Okay, let's do the next one. Now, there's a little bit of gripping. I'm going to widen these slots a tiny bit as well. They're a little bit, tiny bit grippy. I could hear the strings catching on them a fraction, but let's bring this one out. Yeah. So here we are, that little tiny diagonal one. And that, because it's diagonal, it's kind of, it's not a natural angle that you automatically get right, so you have to be very careful getting that one in. Not a bad little design, this. I mean, other than, you know, I much prefer it had something that pulled back the intonation on that spring, but still, we shall test this in a minute, and then we'll see where we need to go with it. Right, only two to do. So what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to set the, there's a little bit of metal sticking up here which isn't great, a bit of a burr, but it's not the end of the world, it's not critical, so I won't mess with it. What I'll do is, once I've got these actions set, then I'm going to try playing it and see what's happening with any of the notes. Now if they don't need doing, that will be fine. If it doesn't need any fretwork at all, then the setup will be complete and successful. Pretty complete. I'll do a little bit of work on the nut as well to make sure it's free running. Come back here, yeah. Round the other way, please. So this one, I'm going to pull it back to there. Try and lock it into place, but very difficult to get a grip to stay in one place. Thank you. Okay, and then bring up these, and then we'll tighten this up again. Go for the action on this one, and we're going to go for, what do we say, 1.8 to 2, so this will be, I can't remember what we said now. First one came in at 1 point, just about 1.8. Second one came in at a little bit, tiny bit more. We're looking at the bottom of the string, by the way. This one is a fraction low still. Okay, nearly there. So it's funny because you can see that the tops of the strings obviously are different heights because the thickness of the string itself. Okay. Come back here. Such spindly little tiny things to do. That doesn't want to go in there. I'm going to have to use this one that came with it. Thank you. Right. 1 point. Right, actually. Let's just lock it down. You get much room to turn these keys, but you've got to be patient. Turn them all, make sure that they stay where you want them. Come on. Come on. Fiddly. It's fiddly, but it's not even as fiddly bad as a Tune-o-matic bridge is. But we'll eventually get there. Right. So one more of these units. Slack this off. Again, at the same time, just looking at how that sits in the grooves, they're looking pretty good actually. That one's not gripping. And I'll pull this, undo this one. Come on, out you come. Yeah, it's a funny arrangement. It just sits on sits on its backside and scrapes along the ground. There's no The only thing that this little grub screw here does is just pushes it against the side, which is already a fairly tight fit, so it just adds that extra bit of width to the whole unit and stops it moving any further. You really, it is going to be a case of getting the intonation right by a certain amount of pushing and pulling by hand, which is fiddly. Fiddly but not impossible. So let's undo that a bit so we can get it on and get these out. Okay. So today is my 55th birthday, and that's pretty old. And the funny thing is, a good thing in a way, is we were kind of talking about what I wanted for my birthday. And actually, it's really weird to have reached that place in your life where you don't really have anything that you want much. I mean, yes, I'd like to head back to the Maldives and swim with the fish again at some point one day before I pop off, or there's some kind of get out there and doing type things that I'd like to do, but in terms of possessions and hey, what do you want as a gift, nothing much, especially when you feel like you've got, in terms of, in the world of guitars and stuff, got everything I need. I don't want any more techno toys, really. Okay, for the last one, we're going for the 2mm. This one's a bit low as it stands. I did overdo this one in down low departments, but we'll see what we get. Alright, we're on, that's a bit high now. So we're looking for 2mm at the 17th fret, which we've got. So I'm just going to clean off those top bits there, and then I'm going to, if I can, just tighten up this front one. Of course it doesn't go in all the way, so I'll use the little L-shaped one for the fine or tighten down. Now this is just tightening the height of the saddles, and the next part of the game will be to make sure that the intonation is correct, which I'll use the tuner for again. Get these bits out of the way. Okay, switch to normal vision. I'm going to replace that now before I send this guitar back with my rechargeable pickup in it, which I don't want to do. So that comes out of here like this, goes back in there. I did the tongue test and there was plenty of spark in that battery, so I wouldn't worry about that. Okay, so now I'm going to check the relief again because it may have had time to move around since we first did it, but I'm kind of assuming that the relief is where I want it, which was 0.25 roughly, a little bit more on the 8th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Yeah, there's a bit of fresh air under there, that's okay. a little bit of fret rattle or string rattle as we hit the big twang on the strings. Depends how you hit them. It's okay, it's playing. The only thing I think I heard, kind of watching and feeling how these strings move through the slots. What I'm listening for here is to make sure that when you tune it, the strings go up through the slots in a really smooth way, and there's no lag, or there's certainly no pinging. That's the other thing we don't want at all. So that's pretty good. The only other thing we've got here is a sort of 2mm and 2.8mm difference here on the 2mm between the pickup and the strings on the treble side, and a bit more 2.8 on the bass side. And at the moment this is a bit close on the do these out of interest, do these things move at all? Well, not if you go that way, they don't. There we go. Down a bit. I'll just double check these again. Right, I've got a different. No, I can't read that ruler. Just try this a minute. So we got 2. Stay there. We got just over 2. It's a little fraction over. Get in now. Fiddly. Right, we'll go down with these. That feels a bit better. Leave that there and lock this off. It's funny because of the thickness of the string, kind of is a bit off-putting because it sticks out the top, but it's the kind of distance to the underside of the fret really. Sorry, distance from the underside to the top of the fret. It's hitting behind, so we get in. That's what you get basically when the fret behind, the one you're hitting on, just touches down on there as well. But depends how much you hit them, whether that's your style or not. Now, another thing I'm going to just check here is the action of the first fret. Now the thing is, I have to do this with the strings firmly in place, because if I don't, it's going to go all over the place, because obviously the neck's going to flatten out. So I'm going to aim for, we go for a 0.3 in the world of 6 strings. I go for 0.3 anyway. I just want to see what this is registering as here. So it's 0.4, it's more than 0.4, it's probably a bit more than 0.5. I'll have a look online, see if I can see what the word on the street is. Yeah, it's about 0.4, and it changes a little bit, so it varies, but I think it's around about 0.4, which is actually not bad. Here's 0.4, there you go. Almost 0.4. This one's a bit higher, so is that one. Around about 0.4 to 0.6, and I'm not going to grind those out any further because that's pretty close on a bass anyway. Okay, so what I will do is I will double check the heights of the pickups again, make sure they are where I want them. I may not actually be able to go any further down, so I want 2 and 2.8, so this one really wants to go down a little bit if I can, but I think he's at his stops. That's interesting. And this one is pretty much there as well. So that's it. We are preset, I think. The only difference is we could come up a little bit with the neck pickup. I'm not even sure if these are even adjustable. I have a feeling they're not. I think this may just be the pickup rings I'm moving for the sake of it, so I won't bother any further. I think that is it. I don't think there's any up and down adjustability on these things. There's a pre-fixed height, so all I'm doing is tightening and pressing down the cover, which is not really that effective. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do now, the final thing on this, check everything I want to check. Happy with the neck release, happy with the last fret action, happy with the first fret action. Take an opportunity to just oil the board before giving this a clean down. I'll do the clean down in the house. Oh, also before I do the clean down, after I've done oiling the board, I'm just going to set the intonation, or check and set the intonation, and see where we get. I don't know whether or not whether the tuner on my phone is going to handle the intonation of a bass guitar. I think it has before, but we shall see. So this is kind of new. It's not got any grime or dirt on it, so it's just sort of, I keep going to say the word hydrating, but as you know, it's not hydrating, it's oilating. Oilating the fingerboard, give it a little bit of colour. nice condition anyway. It is pound for pound, it's a much better finished instrument than the 6-string. So I don't know if it's a same manufacturer or if there's anything substantially different about the means or the place of its production. It sounds like a communist manifesto, but it's yeah, it feels a bit better quality. I know that it's simpler in the sense there's not much to go wrong, but it feels better, better made. Even the frets have less handling damage on them. On the HB 35 there was quite a bit of quite a few little dings and issues, which weren't ideal, I have to say, for a brand new guitar, but this is free from all of that, so very good. I'm just going to get right to the end here. Tune it all up. Oh, let's presume, I'm going to presume, I think correctly, with good reason, that the neck relief is going to stay where we set it. And then do that up. So in this case, I would have levelled the frets had there been any need for it. I'm fully prepared to, but in this case they didn't need it, so it was relatively straightforward. That's the main thing. Actually, there's a tiny little bit of wear on, or mark on the top of the frets there, but that's about it. That's my nib. So I'll get some lint-free cloth out for the final clean up of this. Things with these black guitars is as soon as you take them out of the box, they're getting dust everywhere. This isn't my lint-free cloth, by the way. This is just a cloth for the moment. Giving it a little bit of a stretch to make sure everything sits neatly on the tuners. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'll try this now with the built-in, no, the iPhone tuner, and see if it works. Just for your information, the numbers I used were Fender numbers for a precision bass. So I was aiming to get close to that, and as you saw I went under those values a little bit to push the guitar to a lower action, partly because of Rich's newness to bass playing, I suppose. So I thought it would be good to yeah, set it low enough to make it easy for him. So let's have a listen to what we've got here in terms of intonation. First indication. The first one, the E, was registering on the mark. A is registering too long. D too long. Too long. So that means, push that out of the way, that means we have to bring all of these forward. What did I say? The E was on, so yeah, they're all going to be forward of that mark. So I'll get my thing here. Now technically I think we'd probably be advised on the bass to slack off the ones we want to move. Now I'm going to do this now by eyeball. So the first thing we do is we just get it loose enough to move the string off the saddle, and we're going to come forward of the low E point, which the low E is registering as being in the correct position. So it's a bit of a guess to begin with. So we take this one and we push it. Now the problem with that, as I see it, is to get it to work we have to stand it over the screw, which is not my most ideal place of choice, but now as we know this is not going to play until we get everything under tension. So I'm going to push all of this forward. Now this one is going to probably jump up onto the screw. Now it's gone back a bit from it. The problem with these screws is they push the whole little saddle unit back, so you have to kind of hold it in place as you put the thing on it. And then this one we're going to come forward and that's going to sit right on the screw, whether it wants to or not. So this is a stagger pattern. We'll see what we've got. That was down here. Why am I reaching down? It's up on here. I've got them on the mark by playing the stagger game. Longer for the fatter strings, shorter ultimately for the higher strings. Okay, well, a little bit of care and attention to be paid there, but that is pretty much it. So just to recap, setting the neck relief first, checking it all over for any fret problems. There weren't any. Setting the neck relief first, which was too flat. Checking the last fret, well, in this case the 17th fret action, but then setting it, I went below that, setting the checking the first fret action, which was already pretty good. Oiling out and checking all of these little bridge components worked, and then intonating it to make sure it works, and checking the electrics too. And the only thing that I would possibly do, actually I'm not going to try and screw these things any further in. These saddles are sitting just on the top of the little screws there, and it works. My worry about trying to push the screws any further in is that they may shear off, in which case that's a hell of a lot worse. What we have here is a little bit of overlapping tape, and Rich, I'm going to leave that to you if you want to take a little blade to that and undo that, or cut that off. It won't do any harm. It's not continuous. It's just a grounding, an earthing thing. Just one thing I'm going to do before I go back in the house with this and call this one done is check the tension on the neck bolts on the back, also watching out for how where the neck is going. Everything feels good, just kind of tiny tad over what it is, just so I can get a feel for it. Check the strap buttons, which are good. Yeah, and I say I'll go to one of the clean cloths indoors. So there we have it. Actually a pretty nice bass, and better quality generally than the 6-string. I had to work a lot harder to get the 6-string to where it should have been. This was better condition from the outset, but still needed a little bit of work, you know, to get it just right, but not as much. And quite pleased with how that plays. All round nicely done for not a huge amount of money, so not a bad first bass. And as I've pointed out here, I've set the action quite low so that somebody new to bass is going to be able to play this without having to struggle, and that's really the whole point of it. There you go. Okay, Rich, with a bit of luck these two will be ready to go on their way back to you tomorrow, and for a Friday delivery.